But let's now turn our attention to one of the other big stories of the day. Well, there have been many big stories of the day when it comes to the royals, and, well, some correspondence between the then Prince of Wales and Meghan Markle regarding racial insensitivity, unconscious bias, and is this the reason that Meghan is not coming to the coronation? Well, the woman with the answers. She is the co-host of the Majesty podcast, though we've not done one for weeks, so we're terrible, Kinsey Schofield, and of course, todiefordaily.com. Hello, Kinsey Schofield.
We have been ill. Also, I can't believe you're going to put me on after all those mad people.
Yeah.
They're like, I feel like
You're
they're
gonna
going to be mad at me
things.
just because they're mad.
You're gonna diffuse things. I am still ill, and you're still a bit croaky as well, so that's why we've been putting it off a bit. I've got quite a rancid cough at the moment. You've had all sorts of diseases and illnesses, haven't you?
Hush, hush, that is disgusting. No, I just had a cold. I got us the most ridiculous, like, little girl. I mean, I bought it from a children's store, but jewels that I was going to put all over our faces for coronation. At some point while I'm there, I just thought that would be the cutest photo for the gram.
Yeah, we'll see how you get on with that. You might have to pin me down to glue it to my face, but give me a couple of vodka tonics and I'll probably do it myself.
I can't wait.
So, this is a really, really interesting turn of events. So yesterday, the Telegraph reported that the then Prince Charles and Meghan Markle exchanged letters after the Oprah interview. The Oprah interview in which it was alleged that there was a senior member of the royal family that made a negative comment about Archie's skin tone. Charles wrote to Meghan after that interview expressing his...
Wait, Meghan wrote him first, right? Meghan wrote him first.
Oh, I thought he wrote to her first.
No, Meghan wrote him after the interview explaining why they felt it was important to write or to talk to Oprah Winfrey, and explained her, she's specifically explained what about her experience made her mentally, have a hard time mentally, why she was suicidal. And she specifically, Cristo, told him the person and the circumstances behind the skin color comment, and she's unhappy with Charles's response.
Well, this is the weird turn of events, because the Telegraph originally reported that she was not coming to the coronation because she was unhappy with Charles's response, and that although there were quite warm letters exchanged, ultimately the decision not to come to the coronation was because she was unhappy with the response that Charles gave. But that article on the Telegraph website has now been amended multiple times, one of which of the amendments is to say that Meghan is not coming to the coronation because of the response. Also, the original article said that Meghan believed that the comment that was made regarding Archie's skin colour was a racist comment, but then that had to be removed from the Telegraph article as well. So for someone who reportedly had absolutely nothing to do with the Telegraph getting this story of this letter being written, there certainly seem to be a lot of amendments which reflect Meghan's opinion that seem to have subsequently been made to the article.
And she released a statement last night saying that it was ridiculous it was ridiculous and that she doesn't live in the past. Although we've got 6 hours of Netflix, 400 pages of spare, and the 317th time she's told the freaking soap story that says otherwise, that she lives in the past. So specifically with this, I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that the Telegraph got spare before everybody else. Additionally, the Telegraph was the first, and I think only independently, with their own sources, publication that confirmed or reported that Harry had reached out to Charles at the time that he was there for the Daily Mail lawsuit and Charles was too busy to see him. So it does feel like the Telegraph has some sort of in with the Sussexes, just to go on top of your point, that they had to make a lot of corrections that were, in Meghan's voice.
I mean, some sceptical people might suggest that that story came from the Sussexes originally, even though they are now claiming that this story is ridiculous. There are some people that are sceptical and suggesting, we would never be one of those people, obviously, but there are some cynical people who are suggesting that this story has come from them. Now, one of the amendments, as I said, was in the original article where they speak about how Meghan and Charles exchanged these letters about this apparent racist comment made regarding Archie's skin colour. However, it is understood that she, Meghan, does still consider the comment to be racist. Well, that was updated to then read, one royal source suggested that whilst the exchange was warm in tone, it had not eased the tension between the two sides. The original also stated that whilst the issues raised during the racism row have never been resolved, the Duchess is said to have moved on and does not hold a grudge. That was then changed to, however, that part was removed altogether, and there was another part put in saying she may also have wanted to protect herself, rather than confirming she did want to protect herself by not coming to the coronation because of criticism. They've amended it to say she may want to protect herself, so they're sort of more speculating rather than confirming it. So that's some of the changes that were made to an article that they apparently had nothing to do with.
I mean, it's just so good. When I
you love this, don't you? You love this.
Yeah. When I first read the article, when there were no amendments, I initially thought, so interesting that this drops just, weeks before the coronation, when we are being so critical of Meghan for staying at home, which we were going to be critical whether she went or not. There's just, no denying that. But I mean, you had Paul Burrell on international television calling her a coward. You had, some of us challenging her decision. Is it really Archie's birthday, or are you just afraid of getting tomatoes thrown at you? So I did wonder, is this her trying to change the narrative and reshift it back to victim mode? So people sympathize with her, and as they watch the coronation, they feel sorry for her. And perhaps that is the case. Perhaps the Sussexes did leak this story with the intention to change the tone and focus the narrative back on, oh, poor Meghan. Meghan should be there. Oh, poor Meghan.
Oh, poor Meghan, but it wasn't resolved. They didn't resolve it well enough in order to sort of welcome her back into the fold. It's so odd that
Cristo, can I tell you really quickly? A source talked to Page 6 here in the States, confirming that those letters did exist. So there's no denying the letters. So how did whoever get confirmation about the letters?
Well, yeah, this is the royal editor of the Telegraph. How did they end up with the story about the letters, which arguably, if you were to believe now the amendment, sort of put or it's an attempt, some might say, to put the palace in a bad light and to, as you say, shift the narrative onto Meghan and Harry looking like victims, looking like the ones that held out the olive branch and weren't given a suitable resolution. And when, again, what's very interesting about the fact that these amendments to the article were made, what is always quite telling when you look at amendments that were made is what remained in the article, what was not amended. And there is a very interesting paragraph that was clearly not amended to make Meghan, because apparently, or perhaps it could be construed that Meghan wanted these changes. This is the article. The palace, this is the paragraph, the palace is also aware of the Sussexes' frustration that initial email correspondence about the coronation made no reference to their children and their potential involvement. The omission only fuelled their feeling that their family plays second fiddle to the Waleses. Well, firstly, of course they do, because they're further down the line of succession. But isn't it amazing that that's not a part of the article that was asked by whomever may have asked to be removed?
Oh, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And that just, we saw that throughout the Netflix series, how uncomfortable, how resentful they were that they weren't considered as important as William and Catherine. But at the same time, it's like, we're not even sure your kids exist. I've never seen them.
I don't think you can say that. I think their children do exist. But another thing that was in there as well, which is interesting, the palace's delay in recognising the children's elevated status, because of course now they've inherited Prince and Princess, caused frustration, not least as the Prince and Princess of Wales's titles and those of their children were swiftly changed upon the late Queen's death. Now, if the article is being...
your job. You quit your job.
And also, if the article is being amended because they don't want certain things in there that might make certain people look bad, well, clearly they're quite happy for the stuff like that to remain in. Still joining. Now, you had another observation regarding this story, regarding the letters that apparently have been exchanged by the then Prince Charles and Meghan regarding the Oprah interview and the alleged racism, which then wasn't racism, and then it was racism again in the Telegraph article. Before then it wasn't racism again, regarding Archie's skin colour. What's your other observation?
So my other observation is when that story first came out on the Queen's birthday, very good mention. I thought that was horrendous. All of them, the royal watching community started messaging me trying to guess who it was. And I thought, is this their intention? Are they, and I'll just say it, like everybody thinks it was Camilla. Tom Bower says it was Camilla in Revenge. And so everybody started messaging me.
He doesn't actually say it's Camilla in
Well, he says
Revenge.
that Camilla made a joke about the baby's hair color and if the baby, or would the baby have a ginger afro or something to that effect. And that could have been what set Meghan and Harry off. Harry initially laughs at it, Tom Bower says, but when repeating it to Meghan, Meghan is offended by it, which Harry then goes, oh, I should have been offended by it, and it becomes a problem. But initially, he thought it was a joke as well. And so everybody started messaging me going, do you think it's her? Do you think it's her? Do you think it's her? And I thought, is this the whole point, to bring her down right before the coronation so that we're all going? I mean, I think in the States, it's so that we're having the racism conversation again, but that doesn't justify it being released in the Telegraph.
I mean, that would be, if you were to believe the words of Tom Bower in his book Revenge, which I have now read cover to cover, that would be the kind of calculating move that Meghan would make. This is, of course, a woman, and these are facts, that has abandoned the father that paid over $100,000 to put her through private education. I mean, that's a fact. Didn't invite anyone other than her own mother from her side of the family to her own wedding. I mean, talking about racism, I mean, the only black member of her family that was there was her mother, if we really want to talk about there being racism, because I know that again, and there are actually sources who are quoted. These aren't just, these are sources. In that book, it actually states that there were members of Meghan's family who were deeply offended that they weren't invited. And I'm not talking about Samantha Markle and that side. I'm talking about on her mum's side. Really offended. So she is, can we say, slightly ruthless when it comes to these sorts of things. And as you say, the timing as well of this letter is quite ruthless as well. Being the Queen's birthday, and of course when that photograph was released of the Queen surrounded by her grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
All of her grandchildren except for Archie and Lily.
But Archie and Lily don't live didn't live near the Queen. They lived in the States.
I know, but it's just, it did, I think all eyes were on it, you know, and I mean, that observation was made by everybody. I remember kind of defending it, going, well, I don't think it's any sort of slam. I don't think it's any sort of shade.
Snub.
They just weren't there. But, you know, it was everybody made the observation.
Could it have been the palace that released this story about the letters?
Wait, you think the palace? I don't think so.
No, I'm just asking, could it have been the palace?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think so, because I don't think that they want any mention of her. I think they would like the focus to stay on the king, and they want it to be the king's day. And you and I have had a million conversations about this. If Meghan doesn't go, what will she do to distract from the coronation? And maybe this was the premature shot. I don't know.
It's interesting. It's very, very interesting.